at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Wednesday, January 22nd. I'm Dean Obeidallah, your special impeachment version of MBFF. Just not a normal MBFF, but the impeachment version. Whatever that might mean. But I'm on Twitter all the time, at Dean Obeidallah. So let's bring people up to speed. What happened last night after our show and what happened today in the impeachment trial. Because last night was motions. They went to nearly 2 a.m. Eastern time debating motions. And I think it is so important to cover what happened last night. It's getting a little coverage, and you have to read it online more because everything went to live coverage today. But last night was really extremely important in some big picture thing. Now, what they did is agree to the Senate rules for the trial. And in sum, just quickly, it's going to be 3 days. The prosecution, which is the House managers, get to go for up to 24 hours. Then 3 days after that, the Trump's lawyers. Then after that, the senators will have up to 16 hours to ask questions. And then at that moment, there might be an actual motion and discussion about can you bring witnesses. But here's the truth. Because of what happened last night, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. And let me sum up this way. These proceedings in the Senate are a lot of things. They're a rigged hearing. They're a television show. They're a Soviet Union Joseph Stalin show trial. They're a farce. They're a charade. The one thing this is not is a trial. A trial is an earnest, sincere search for the truth. We all get that. That's what a trial is. You don't need a law degree. A trial is a search for the truth. And to find the truth, you need all relevant evidence. You need documents and you need people. Witnesses, they're called. It's that simple, my friends. This is not a trial. This is a cover-up. This is a GOP cover-up to protect their beloved Donald Trump. And I say that because of what happened last night, because they had an opportunity, the Republicans, to put America first. But they put Donald Trump and protecting Trump and power first. And I want to remind people, first of all, that Trump has not only prevented witnesses from testifying who were subpoenaed by the House during the impeachment. Do you know how many documents he has produced in response to Democratic subpoenas from the House? How many? 0. In fact, here's Gerald Nadler, Judiciary Chair, right at the time of impeachment, just a few weeks ago, on the floor, making that very case about they've given us 0 documents. Here's clip number 1.
And then he violated the Constitution by stonewalling Congress's efforts to investigate, ordering an absolute blockade of evidence. Despite that, the House was able to uncover powerful evidence that demonstrates beyond doubt the president's betrayal and violations of the Constitution. But we still have not heard the whole truth because the president has refused to allow a single document to be turned over to the House in response to our impeachment subpoenas. And he has prevented us from hearing key witnesses as well. This is unprecedented. Our Speaker has led our fight for a fair trial in the Senate. Above all, a fair trial must include additional documents and all relevant witnesses. The American people have common sense. They know that any trial that does not allow witnesses is not a trial. It is a cover-up.
And that was a few weeks ago. And I thought when you saw public opinion polls over and over showing nearly 70% of Americans want witnesses. A Monmouth poll yesterday said 75% of Americans want Trump officials to testify, and they want Donald Trump himself to testify. They support that. So last night they had an opportunity to change the game and say we're going to have some witnesses and give you some documents. Because if you're going to have a trial, you need that. If you're going to call this a trial, you need the relevant evidence. That's it. And Adam Schiff actually said in his arguments to the senators when making the plea to agree to their motions, he said, you're going to have 16 hours to ask questions. 16 hours. That's a long time to ask questions. Wouldn't you like to be able to ask about the documents during those 16 hours? Absolutely right. And I'm going to read just a quick summary of the different motions the Democrats made last night and what they were asking for. And when I read them, think to yourself objectively, if you were on a jury and you were trying to make an informed decision, an unbiased, informed decision, would you want this evidence or would you not want this evidence? So let's go through some of them. First motion they made, Democrats asked to subpoena the White House to get emails, memos, and other documents related to Donald Trump's campaign to pressure the Ukrainians. That is the heart of the impeachment case, folks. You want to see, and some can be redacted, that's not an issue, but you want to see the emails, correspondence, documents internally in the White House dealing with the specific issue about withholding aid to Ukraine. Who would oppose that? Well, guess what happened? We had a vote, party line vote. 53 Republicans said no, 47 Democrats said yes, blocked. Motion number 2 then. Democrats make a motion to subpoena documents from the State Department related to the Trump administration's involvement in the whole Ukraine situation and withholding military aid. These are key documents that go to the heart of the issue. They're from the State Department. Again, if something has to be redacted for executive privilege, you can claim that. Don't you think you'd want to see those documents if you're on the jury? Well, Republican senators don't. Party line vote again? No, 53-47. Then Chuck Schumer called for a subpoena to the Office of Management and Budget, OMB. They're the ones that conveyed to the Pentagon, we're withholding the aid. No aid to the Ukraine. Wouldn't you want their documents? Wouldn't you want to see emails like Trump saying this or Chief of Staff for Trump saying, hey, this is why we're withholding the aid or whatever the documents might be? Wouldn't you want to see that? I mean, how can you have a jury? How can you be in a jury and not want to see that? Well, the Republicans don't want to see it. 53-47, party line vote said no. And then Chuck Schumer tried to get human beings to testify because the documents are not being allowed. So then he asked to compel testimony from acting White House Chief of Staff, also head of OMB, Mick Mulvaney. Mick Mulvaney, as you might recall, talked about in October, hey, there was a quid pro quo. Get over it. In fact, here's Mick Mulvaney in October on this. Here's clip number 3, please.
So the demand for an investigation into the Democrats was part of the reason that he ordered to withhold funding to Ukraine.
The look back to what happened in 2016 certainly was part of the thing that he was worried about in corruption with that nation. And that is absolutely appropriate.
Withholding the funding.
Yeah, which ultimately then flowed.
Clear, what you just described is a quid pro quo. It is funding will not flow unless the investigation into the Democratic server happened as well.
We do that all the time with foreign policy. We were holding up money at the same time for the Northern Triangle countries. We were holding up aid at the Northern Triangle countries so that they would change their policies on immigration.
Wouldn't you want to hear from that guy under oath? He was involved. He was in charge of the OMB, still is. And he goes, yeah, we withheld the aid to the Ukraine because they wouldn't do the investigation we wanted into a Democratic server, which is not part of our national interest. It's a right-wing fantasy myth. What happened? Made a motion. Guess what? 53-47. All Republican senators said no, they don't want it. So then they made another motion to go back to documents. They go, okay, Defense Department has some really key documents. Because don't forget, OMB, which is in the White House, part of the White House executive branch, is telling the Pentagon, don't release this aid. And there's a bunch of emails going back. And Democrats wanted the correspondence between the administration's budget office and the Defense Department. For example, in August, we learned, not because Trump released it, because there was a lawsuit, Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, and these guys won in federal court and compelled the compulsion of certain documents. They got Michael Duffy, who works in this department. He had to release documents, emails, which stated point blank that withholding the aid was, quote, clear direction from POTUS to continue hold, close quote. POTUS, of course, is Trump. We all know that. Sounds like the kind of document you'd want if you want to have a real trial, right? I mean, come on. Who would not want to see this key document and all the documents around this if you actually sit there on a jury and you want to know all the facts before you make a decision? Well, 53 Republicans don't want to see it. That includes Susan Collins and Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski and everyone else. Don't want to see it. Sixth motion they made. And I'm going through all these so you know how much stonewalling in the defense of Donald Trump happened last night in the dark of night. Sixth motion Democrats made. They want to subpoena the testimony of Michael Duffy, the guy in those emails, and Robert Blair, the senior advisor to Mick Mulvaney. And these guys are both all over emails and other documents they got from Freedom of Information Act requests, withholding the aid. They know a lot of stuff. These are key people. And Blair was on the July 25th phone call as well with the Ukrainian leader. He knows everything. What happened? Party line vote, 53-47. It is unbelievable. And it's not over. There's more to this. This is what was going on last night while a lot of people were sleeping. The Republicans were turning any chance of this being an actual trial into a Donald Trump cover-up, Joseph Stalin show trial, which is just BS. Then, seventh motion Democrats made was more procedural in a way, but actually relevant. They made a motion that would require Trump's lawyers to give them any documents that they intend to introduce in the proceedings. That's what in normal discovery in a lawsuit, that happens all the time. Simple fairness. The idea that provide documents Democrats had sought if the president's lawyers tried to introduce new evidence into the trial record. 53-47. The next motion made, John Bolton. They wanted subpoena John Bolton, former national security advisor. This is the guy who said when he heard about what was going on, he called it a drug deal. He told Fiona Hill, who worked for him, go talk to the National Security Council lawyer, John Eisenberg, and tell him, I don't want to be part of this drug deal that Mulvaney and Sondland and these guys are cooking up. His exact words, drug deal. Go tell the lawyer, John Eisenberg. I'm guessing here, but I got a sense it's rare in John Bolton's career if ever before he told someone, go tell the lawyers and National Security Council so we can cover our butts because this is horrible what's going on. This is a key man. This is someone so vitally important, John Bolton. And add to that, John Bolton said, I will testify if you subpoena me. He's ready, willing, and able to tell his story under oath. But the GOP and the Senate are in total coordination with Donald Trump. Mitch McConnell told us that. In fact, today, Donald Trump's in Switzerland. He's on his way back now. And was asked about John Bolton. And listen what he says. He loves to play these games, Trump, where he tries to seem fair. I'd love to hear from them. I love to hear. But then it's all reasons why not. Here's clip number 4 on John Bolton, clip 4.
The problem with John is that it's a national security problem. You know, you can't have somebody who's at national security. And if you think about it, John, he knows some of my thoughts. He knows what I think about leaders. What happens if he reveals what I think about a certain leader and it's not very positive and that I have to deal on behalf of the country? It's going to be very hard. It's going to make the job very hard. He knows other things. And I don't know if we left on the best of terms. I would say probably not, you know. And so you don't like people testifying when they didn't leave on good terms. And that was due to me, not due to him.
So national security, Trump says. Actually, it's job security for Donald Trump. John Bolton is someone we desperately want to testify. Of course, it won't be public. It'll be deposition and only introduce the relevant parts. But Donald Trump is telling you right here, John Bolton knows my thoughts. And we didn't leave on good terms. This is a guy who wants to testify. Donald Trump doesn't want him to. So no surprise, last night, vote 53-47, GOP party line. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. You can't have anything. And then the worst part is the Democrats then made a motion, a ninth motion, simply getting a guarantee. All they wanted was a guarantee that the senators eventually will vote on specific requests for witnesses after the opening statements. They want a guarantee because it's in the rules right now that they can vote, they might vote, they may vote, but there's no guarantee. Simply, they wanted a guarantee there would be a vote on each of the witnesses they want again after opening statements, after the senators asked the questions. What was the vote numbers? You know it. 53-47. Party line vote. Republicans don't even want to guarantee a vote. Waiting for Republicans to see the light of day and put America over Trump is a fool's errand. I don't care what Mitt Romney says or tweets or Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski. Ultimately, one of them or two of them might vote for a witness, but the reality is because of the rules that were passed last night and the proposals that were rejected, we may never have a vote on witnesses other than a broad question about, do you need more evidence? And they go, no. So they're not on. But let's be blunt. The Republicans are already on record saying they don't want Mick Mulvaney in that vote last night. They don't want John Bolton. They don't want documents from the White House revealed. They don't want documents from the State Department revealed. They don't want documents from OMB revealed. They don't want documents from the Defense Department. You don't have to be a lawyer to know this fundamental truth about anything resembling a trial. If the evidence is going to help you, you want it introduced. If it's going to hurt you, you want to block it. We all know that. So Donald Trump understands, and he just told us John Bolton's going to hurt him. All of this would hurt Trump. And the Republicans, instead of having a fair, actual trial, a real trial, which is a search for the truth, they've turned this into a rigged cover-up. And Donald Trump today in Davos, it's a short clip, but this is not out of context. This is true. Asked about the documents, and he literally brags today that they don't have the documents they need anyway. I'm not making this up. And Val Demings, who's a House manager, a congresswoman, tweeted, Trump is admitting to blocking our documents and now boasting about it. Here's clip number 2. We'll go back to Nina.
We're doing very well. I got to watch enough. I thought our team did a very good job. But honestly, we have all the material. They don't have the material.
We have all the material. They don't have the material because they blocked us. That's why this is not a trial. I don't know what the word we should use. TV show, spectacle, farce, whatever you want. Please don't use the word trial. I know we're going to because we can't help, but it's in the media. And in the Constitution says the Senate will try all impeachments. But this is not a trial. This is a television show. And what's going to happen, and I'll predict this, and we'll talk about this more later because today is the Democrats' opening tomorrow and Friday. When we get to Saturday and next week, when Trump's lawyers do their opening, it's going to sound like a Trump campaign speech. They're going to ignore the evidence. It's going to talk about how great the economy is, how much Hunter Biden's a criminal and Joe Biden's a criminal. They're literally going to turn into 3 days of an infomercial for Donald Trump's 2020 reelection. And why? Because it's rigged. They know their client can't lose. So why not use it as a platform to help Donald Trump win 2020 reelection? I am telling you they're going to do this, and I'm not speculating because I read their brief. And in their brief, they mentioned Joe and Hunter Biden over 20 times. They mentioned Joe Biden firing a pro-anti-corruption prosecutor, which is a lie. They lied in writing. The guy was not a pro-anti-corruption prosecutor. He was the opposite. He was stopping investigations into corruption. That's why the International Monetary Fund said you're not getting any more money unless you fire him and clean up corruption. And by the way, just so it's clear, the prosecutor, Victor Shokin, was never fired. He resigned. It is so bizarre that our media goes with the Trump narrative. And we'll talk about it more, and I'll read articles from 2015 and 16 when it happened. He resigned, tenders his resignation to the parliament, and they vote to accept it. He was never fired because of Joe Biden. He was pressured and felt the pressure to resign, never fired. So there's no prosecutor fired, just so it's clear. First and foremost, no prosecutor fired. Any Trumper tells you that, they're simply uninformed. And on some level, it's not their fault because the media keeps furthering the Donald Trump lie. So this show is the antidote to Donald Trump's lies. Never fired. He resigned. Just so it's clear, and we'll talk about that later. Here's the reality. 70% of Americans think there should be witnesses at this trial. 70%. The GOP does not care. They care about Trump because they do not feel they're going to pay a price electorally for this. And this is a joke. This is a charade. Later in the show, I'll play clips from Adam Schiff today, doing a great job. And the reason I have more Adam Schiff clips because he's on during the afternoon. Now Hakeem Jeffries is on. This will continue on. Gerald Nadler was on. I watched Zoe Lofgren and others. I'll try to play some of their clips tomorrow as well. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, Congressman Jamie Raskin's going to join us at some point in a few minutes. He's on House Judiciary Committee. He was very involved in what we're seeing now, so I want to get his inside take The second hour, it's all you. You're my guest for the entire second hour. I'll play some clips of Adam Schiff from today, some compelling things. I thought he made some great arguments on high crimes and misdemeanors. That's really what this whole argument will come down to ultimately, because they're not disputing the facts, the other side. They're just saying this is not removable offense, not high crime misdemeanor. We'll get into that and more. But so let's take a quick break. Come right back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show right after this.
Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.